Hi everyone, welcome to The Rise. My name's Jazz and this is also Jazz, and we're filming from the beautiful Morning Light studio today here in the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia. Our video today is to support you with pregnancy nausea. I know firsthand, having been through 2 pregnancies, and Jazz, this is your 2nd pregnancy too. We both definitely have been there with how debilitating nausea can be. And this sequence has worked for me. It's worked for many of my clients to help them move through pregnancy nausea and be able to get on with their day feeling a little bit more vitalized, energized, and just better in themselves. Have a look at the intro video for the science behind the what we're doing and why this works, and just get yourself prepared. We will need a block if you have one, if not a rolled up towel would do, a second towel or blanket, and then the bolster. If you don't have one of these, you can use just a nice big firm pillow. And get comfy, we'll begin. Oh, one more thing, the chair. If you have access to a chair or a stool or even the edge of your sofa, that's where we might begin today. The chair or stool would be better because what we're going to do is take our legs slightly wide. And if that's a little bit hard to sort of lean forward, you can shuffle your sitting bones onto the edge of your blanket or towel. And then you're going to simply bring yourself forward onto that stool or onto your bolster or your block. So we're just giving a few options here depending on how nauseous you feel. You might prefer the modified version Jazz is doing here, where you're a lot more upright, but you've got that pressure on the forehead. Or if you're feeling like you can go a little bit deeper, and for some of us that might feel better, then you can use your props at lower levels. And once you're settled into the physical shape, what we're going to focus on is breathing diaphragmatically. Now, what this means is that we take some deeper breaths down into our rib cage and our belly. So because the belly runs out of space a little bit as bump gets bigger, what I want you to focus on today, and you can even use your hands for a little bit of feedback, is to see if you can take your breath down into your ribs so they expand forward, outwards to the side, and backwards behind you. And that's some really nice movement Jazz is getting there. If I put my hand on her, I can feel that her rib cage is gently expanding out. What that's telling me is she's using her whole torso to now breathe, not just her upper chest and shoulders as her breathing apparatus. So she's allowing her diaphragm to fully ascend and descend. Now, this first of all has wonderful effects on your pelvic floor. That's a whole other subject, but it is much better for your pelvic floor toning when your diaphragm can release and reset properly. But second of all, from our nausea perspective, this is a really big one because it's allowing our nervous system to start to regulate. And when our nervous system starts to regulate, it has a knock-on effect to our digestive system and our endocrine system. Our endocrine system is our hormones and how they're released, and pregnancy nausea is often a result of how our hormones are being released through our body. So Jazz, taking our last few breaths here, I'll join you. Nice slow deep breaths in and out through the nose. And if you want to stay longer at home, feel free to pause the video and stay a bit longer. And then our next pose, Jazz, if you want to move your stool out of the way now, we're going to take butterfly legs. So feet together, knees wide. And if you want a little bit more release into the groin muscles here, if they feel tight, take the heels closer in. Or if you want more of a release to the back of the legs, take the feet further away. And we're again going to lean ourselves forward so we can use our props to create a height that works for us. If you want to come all the way down towards your feet, you're welcome. You've got your bolster and or your block to create a place that's right for you. But starting to focus again on those ribs expanding in all directions as you breathe. Slow, deep, conscious breaths, calming our nervous system, cooling. This is a very cooling based way of breathing, and when we think about nausea, it's often associated with heat as well, and if we feel hotter, our nausea is worse. So breathing in this way can really help to reduce those symptoms. Can you relax your jaw a little bit? Soften this area, soften your shoulders. And just take 3 more breaths wherever you are. Letting that last exhale go as you slowly lift yourself off of your props. And we're going to come to a child's pose next. So you might choose to use your blanket or your towel here to give your knees a little bit of extra padding. And you can take the knees wider to the edge of your mat if that allows you to have a bit more space for bub and for bump to come through. Now you can use your bolster again if you like this sort of support underneath your chest a little bit. You can use a block if you prefer, just underneath the head on the medium or the lower setting. And if you're struggling to get the hips back towards the heels, like Jazz can so beautifully still do at 31 weeks, many of us won't be able to get there at 31 weeks. So we might place that bolster in between the thighs and the calves, as I'm demonstrating here, and then come forward. So again, dropping straight into that slow, deep, comfortable breath. Rib cage expands. Naturally, the belly rises and falls with that pattern of breathing. Consciously aware of your jaw softening, your shoulders relaxing, the back of the neck softening. Can you feel each of your fingertips gently connecting with the earth? Can you feel the back of your feet, your shins pressing into the earth? This connection with a grounding-based energy, again, really good for nausea management. Often when we're low to the ground, connected to the earth, we feel a little bit better. One more full, deep breath in. And a slow, steady breath out. Walking gently your hands up and in. And then this time we're going to come to a kneeling position. So if you want a little bit more support, you can definitely kneel over your bolster. I'm going to try a different way of breathing now, which has been documented to help with nausea. So we're going to use this with a mudra. In yoga, mudras are used to shift energy and create change on an internal level within us. And this particular mudra has been linked to improving nausea for people. So you're going to take the 2 little fingertips to touch and then wrap the rest of your fingers in, and you can just stick your thumbs up to the sky. And as you press those fingertips to touch, the breathing pattern we're now going to take is our inhalations becoming twice as long as our exhalations. So that could be that you inhale for 4 beats and you exhale for 2 beats. It could be that you inhale for 6 beats and exhale for 3 beats, or maybe 8 beats and 4 beats. So have a little play with your unique body. See where that natural rhythm is with your breath, the natural capacity. And then see if it feels better to keep the mouth closed on the exhale, or if it feels good to actually take that exhale through the mouth. Taking a last few rounds of that breath. If you want to pause the video and continue for longer, if this is helpful to you, feel free to do so. And then for today, we're going to continue onwards. So Jazz, releasing your mudra and removing your props out of the way now. We're going to come to some cat-cows, getting a little bit more movement in the spine. When we move the spine from a yoga perspective, we also move our energy. So it can be really helpful to create movement in the spine. It also helps with our movement in our pelvis and supporting more balancing in the pelvic muscles, opening where we need to, strengthening where we need to allow support for bub to get in the optimal position, ready for labor to begin. And we can start our pelvic tilting based postures, which cat-cow is one of them, from as early as 14 weeks to help prepare the pelvis. So we're inhaling, lifting the chest, slightly dropping baby towards the earth. On the exhale, we're drawing baby in as we press through the shoulders, arch the upper back. And you'll notice how the hips are sort of shifting a little bit into this anterior and posterior tilts. So that is what's creating that movement that's supporting our muscles and our pelvis in creating a bit more space and openness for bub to eventually be able to come head down and to engage on the cervix, which is what starts our labor process. Nice work. If you are further along in pregnancy and this version doesn't feel good for you, you can also be on your knees, so I'm demonstrating here. So this is another variation. Let's take a couple more rounds. And letting that practice go as we come to neutral. We're going to slowly make our way down onto our backs now. So if you're further along in your pregnancy, you can slide down on your side and then roll onto your back. We won't be here for too long. And you can take your feet at roughly hip width apart and reaching for your heels. Now, option number one is just to take some pelvic tilts again. So exhaling, I flatten my back into the earth. Inhaling, I let that natural arch of the spine return. I'll move my arms above my head so you can see that a little bit more. That's option one for you. Option two is to go a little bit deeper, and we're going to inhale as we actually do flatten the spine to the earth this time. On the exhale, as you feel your pelvic floor engage, press through your feet, squeeze these outer bum muscles and lift your hips to a point that suits you. The inhale gently imprints your spine back to the earth, push the lower back down to the earth, and then the exhale is where you're going to lift again. So you can take that as high or as low to the ground as you want. It's not necessarily about the size of the movement. It's about timing it with that slow, conscious breath. So the breath is guiding the speed and the depth of your movements. So the top of your inhale is the top of your lift. And, the top of your exhale is the top of your lift. And the top of your inhale is when your spine fully imprints back to the earth. Let's just take one more round, Jazz. Nice. And then we're going to come to a little twist. So taking your hips to drop over to the right and stacking your knees and your hips on top of each other as you take your left palm and your right palm to stack over one another with your arms stretched out. As you inhale, stretch that left arm over, gaze to the left. As you exhale, closing off. Inhale to open. Exhale to close. Last couple of rounds here. Again, in your own practice, if you want to take longer, maybe you're holding in a static twist for a few breaths, for a few sides, feel free. For the sake of today's video, we're going to swap sides now. So coming over gently through the center line, dropping over to the left with the knees and hips stacked, taking the arms out, right palm on top of left cheek to the earth. Inhale as we open, gaze to the right. Exhale as we close. Last couple of rounds. Again, if you want to take longer at home, maybe pause in a static hold of your twist, feel free. Today, in our video, we're going to continue onwards though. So once you come back to the left, maybe use your right arm to push yourself up. And this time taking Paschimottanasana pose. So this simply means a forward fold over our legs. This time our legs are out long. So you can again grab your props to give you a little bit of extra support here. Flex your feet a little bit and make your way into a position with your head leaning forward, your spine coming over your legs slightly. So you can either be more rounded, or if you prefer, you can sort of pull yourself more into a straighter spine position. Depending on how big bub is, how you're feeling in the spine, you can keep the legs together or create a little bit more space here between the feet. So really starting to soften in now for these last few breaths. Deeper, slower, fuller breaths down to the ribcage, to the belly, creating that connection with the earth again. Softening that jaw, softening the shoulders. Taking one more full breath in. And that slow, steady breath out. Slowly lifting the spine. Our final pose today, I'm going to get Jazz to demonstrate with her stool. So Jazz, can you bring your stool back to your mat? And I'm going to give a few options. I'll demonstrate the other variations. This is a great place to finish for just taking out the last of our nausea. So Jazz, if you can then come back onto your back and you're going to put your heels onto the stool with your knees bent. That's it, nice work. And that's perfect. And then you can take one hand to the heart, one hand to the belly, and simply just connect with your breath again. So this is a really nice place to finish your practice. If you want a couple of different variations, another nice place is to actually lift your hips onto a bolster and take the feet straight into the air. This one's a little bit more intense, so if you're further along in pregnancy, that might not feel as good, and this version might suit you better. And then the last variation is to come to constructive rest pose, so taking the feet wide to the edge of the mat, the knees to knock together, and placing one hand on the heart space, one hand on the belly. If you're pretty far along and you don't want to be on your back too long, that's where you can get your block and your bolster or your towel and your big pillow, make a sort of diagonal shape, and you can then recline onto your props first. So you're a little bit more at a diagonal angle with the spine. And this is where we're going to leave you for today's practice. Take as long as you need to rest here. I really hope this sequence has been as beneficial as it has been for myself and some of my clients. And do feel free to write in with some comments and feedback for me. Namaste. See you soon.